6 News is a streaming news channel which I founded when I was 11 years old in 2019, and it's now a 24/7 outlet that's able to give people national, local, international news on air always, and it's done entirely through social media.
Leo Puglisi has been a news hound his entire life, crossing live from his bedroom since he was in Year 6.
Good evening and welcome to 6 News.
Tonight we're speaking to the Prime Minister of Australia.
Great to be with you.
Anthony Albanese, welcome to 6 News.
Thanks for having me on your wonderful program.
Social media has been a really, really significant help to 6 News. You know, we wouldn't exist without it. Our identity really has just been in being high school kids, and that's really what most of us are like. Emergency services were called to reports that the small plane crashed.
6 News has built a following in the tens of thousands, but its very business model is under threat with the federal government's plan to ban children under 16 from social media.
For the coroner. We're talking about taking away YouTube from students who are, you know, in Year 10, who are potentially days or weeks away from getting a learner's licence, who are, I think, pretty fairly expected to act maturely.
Under the proposal, the onus is on the social media company to block access to people under 16. Lisa Given is a Professor of Information Sciences at RMIT University and says there are few details around how this will work.
We don't actually have a lot of answers to that question yet. We know that the government is going to ask the technology companies to put these reasonable steps in place as they've defined it. What do we mean by reasonable steps? It's not clear. The tech companies are more likely to go with something like age verification, requiring people to upload a passport, for example, or they may also argue that they should be going through a third party. So there's been some discussion about a digital ID across the nation, for example, that would affect every user of the platform.
Tech companies echo concerns around how an age limit would be enforced.
We don't yet know Australians' willingness to take that step to provide more information every time they use such a service, and we need to find out before this becomes law.
Digi is an industry group that represents the major tech companies in Australia, including Meta, TikTok and Snapchat.
The risk of a blunt ban is the focus becomes on keeping teenagers off a service rather than keeping them safe when they're on it. There's a risk that a ban can push young people to darker, less regulated parts of the internet where many of the mainstream service safeguards to keep them safe online don't exist.
Principal Lisa Brown welcomes the ban as a world-leading step.
We're going to be observed and scrutinised at a global level because Australia really is the trailblazer in this, and I feel proud actually of the stance that the government has taken.
She says schools are struggling to navigate bullying between students playing out online out of hours.
We have long had to support those natural changes in friendship dynamics. Throw in an online environment where young people can say anything hurtful, unkind or mean comments to anyone or about anyone in an anonymous way and an instant way. I think that's become particularly problematic.
She says educators are bearing the brunt of policing online behaviour.
It's a really hard space for schools to be in, to try to investigate who it was who said things without any clear evidence. It's hard because parents want accountability, but it's not always black and white.
Alongside raising the minimum age, the federal government intends to introduce a digital duty of care, meaning online platforms would be held legally responsible for keeping Australian users safe.
What it does is it puts the onus on the technology companies to attempt to remove and control that harmful content at source. So, for example, it puts control back in the hands of consumers who could complain about harmful content, and then there's an investigative process whereby a company would be asked to remove content, could even go as far as court proceedings for people to find a remedy if they really feel that the content is not appropriate.
This is my room. I obviously love Taylor Swift.
12-year-old Florence is a die-hard Taylor Swift fan.
This is my favourite poster, I think. That's my second favourite poster. I think that Taylor Swift is a good role model because she's a very strong and powerful woman, and she's very kind.
She's been running her own Taylor Swift account on YouTube since January. If a ban became law, she'd be kicked off social media.
I edit on my iPad, and I source my videos from social media, and then I just put them all together and add transitions. I love that it's a good way to express my creativity, and it's really fun.
She's built up nearly 600 subscribers.
One of the best things about having my channel is the sense of community that I find on there, and I get to meet lots of other people with the same interests, like Taylor Swift.
But she has received some nasty comments too, and says social media companies could do more.
I think that they should be more responsible in making sure that people aren't harmed, because it's their platform and they've designed it, and they could definitely do things better to make sure people aren't getting hurt on there.
We don't think it's an entirely risk-free environment, and we do it quite cautiously. But I think we don't see any I think we only see benefits for her at the age that she is as a 12-year-old.
Australia would be following the United Kingdom and European Union, where similar digital duty of care laws are already in place.
Those kinds of controls are something that are not inbuilt in social media platforms. And so really what the duty of care attempts to do is to say, hey, there is a certain level of care we need to take. We need to ensure that known harms and potential harms are managed before consumers are kind of facing them in their daily lives.